Hey guys, so tonight we begin with a journey, not through the realms of fantasy but into the stark, often brutal truth of history. Forget the romanticized tales of brave explorers stumbling upon ancient ruins, dust motes dancing in sunbeams. Tonight we're talking about cities that simply ceased. They didn't just fall, they were swallowed by time, by sand, by the relentless tide of forgotten human endeavor. You, sitting there in your cozy, well-lit room with the hum of modern life a distant whisper, are about to step into a world where existence was a daily battle, and permanence was a fleeting illusion. Before we plunge headfirst into these vanished worlds, take a moment to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't, and definitely drop a comment below telling me where you're listening from and what time it is for you. Alright, find that cozy spot, pull the blankets up, and let's dim the lights and begin our descent into the dust of ages. You stand now on dry, sun-baked earth, the kind that cracks and fissures under a relentless summer sun. The air around you is thick, not with pollution, but with the scent of distant cooking fires, dry earth, and the faint, sweet decay of refuse. This isn't some dusty, forgotten ruin, not yet. This is Mohenjo-Daro at the height of its power, perhaps around 2000 BCE. The very ground beneath your bare feet, yes, you feel the gritty warmth, is a testament to sophisticated urban planning, a marvel of its age. Look around you, really look. You're not seeing haphazard settlements. You're gazing upon a grid, a meticulously organized urban fabric of baked brick, stretching out under the vast ancient sky. You're in the lower city first, the everyday hustle. The narrow streets, just wide enough for a sturdy ox cart, wind between two-story homes. The bricks, uniformly sized, are a deep reddish brown, bearing the marks of their firing. The sun beats down with a fierce, unwavering intensity, making the air shimmer above the flat rooftops. You can hear the distant, rhythmic clang of a metalworker's hammer, the lowing of cattle, the chatter of women at a public well, their voices echoing off the brick walls. There's a constant drone of life, a symphony of ancient existence that envelopes you completely. Feel the roughness of the brick wall as you lean against it. It's cool, a blessed relief from the oppressive heat that seems to press down from all sides. Above you, windows, small and unglazed, offer glimpses into the interior of homes. There are no grand facades here, no ostentatious displays of wealth visible from the street. Instead, Mohenjo-Daro speaks of a quiet, communal prosperity, a pragmatism that shaped every aspect of its design. Every home has access to fresh water and, astonishingly for its time, a sophisticated drainage system. You can almost smell the faint, earthy tang of the pipes, channeling waste away from the living spaces. It's a smell of efficiency, a testament to an unseen civic order that you'd be hard-pressed to find elsewhere in the ancient world. That as you wander deeper, you realize the streets aren't just for foot traffic. Merchants haggle over clay pots filled with grain, meticulously weighed on stone scales. You see men with broad shoulders, tanned and strong from labor, carrying heavy loads on their backs, their bare feet slapping softly against the packed earth. Women, adorned with simple shell bracelets and intricate bead necklaces, move with a quiet dignity, their long cotton garments flowing in the faint breeze. Their hair, often braided or coiled, is protected from the dust by woven scarves. The scent of cumin and turmeric, of roasting barley and freshly baked flatbread, wafts from open doorways, making your stomach rumble with an ancient hunger. This isn't just a city, it's a living, breathing organism, thriving on the banks of a mighty, now-lost river. You come across a public bath, a colossal structure that speaks volumes about the city's priorities. Imagine stepping into that great basin, the cool water lapping at your ankles, surrounded by fellow citizens engaged in a communal ritual of cleansing. The air in this enclosed space would be humid, echoing with murmurs and the splash of water, a stark contrast to the dry heat outside. This wasn't just for hygiene, it was a social hub, a place of spiritual purification, reinforcing the collective identity of Mohenjo-Daro. You can almost feel the smooth, ancient bricks beneath your fingertips, worn slick by centuries of touch. Ascending to this citadel, not a fortress in the usual sense, but a raised mound housing public buildings, you gain a wider perspective. From here, you see the orderly expanse of the city, an almost alien sight of straight lines and right angles in a world dominated by chaos. The granary, a massive timber and brick structure, stands proud, a symbol of the city's self-sufficiency and communal foresight. Imagine the rhythmic thud of sacks of grain being stored, the rustle of wheat and barley, the diligent labor that ensured the city's survival through lean times. You can almost feel the coarse texture of the woven sacks, the weight of the harvest. But despite this palpable sense of order and prosperity, there's a peculiar silence about Mohenjo-Daro. There are no grand temples, no colossal statues of kings or gods dominating the skyline. The lack of monumental art, of obvious palaces or elaborate tombs, suggests a society that valued equality and collective well-being over individual glory. You won't find depictions of warfare, no glorification of conquest. It's a city of merchants, artisans and farmers, bound together by a shared sense of purpose and an enigmatic, undeciphered script that adorns small seals found across the city. You might see a merchant pressing one of these seals into wet clay, the intricate animal design leaving its mark, a simple act of commerce, yet deeply mysterious to your modern eyes that as the sun begins its slow descent, painting the brick walls in hues of orange and deep crimson, the sounds of the city soften. The air grows cooler, a gentle breeze rustling through distant date palms. Lamps, small earthenware vessels holding oil and a wick, begin to cast flickering shadows in the homes below. Families gather for their evening meal, their voices a comforting hum that blends with the chirping of crickets. The stars, countless and impossibly bright, begin to puncture the deepening twilight, a celestial tapestry that has watched over this city for millennia. Yet, as you stand there, sensing the profound peace and order of this ancient metropolis, a subtle unease begins to creep in. This city, so resilient, so intelligently designed, so thriving, will one day vanish. You feel the slow, almost imperceptible shift in the environment, a creeping change that would have been gradual, generational. The mighty river, the lifeblood of this civilization, begins to shift its course, moving further and further away, leaving fertile fields to thirst. Or perhaps it was a series of devastating floods, relentless deluges that submerged and eroded the very foundations of their world, forcing families to abandon their homes again and again. Imagine the increasing scarcity of water, the desperate attempts to dig deeper wells, the parched throats, the dwindling harvests. Feel the anxiety grow in the hearts of the people, the quiet desperation as their sustenance slowly withered. The vibrant marketplace, once bustling, grows quieter, goods scarcer. The intricate drainage system, once a source of pride, now struggles with rising water tables or simply sits unused as the river retreats. The air, once filled with the scent of prosperity, now carries a hint of desperation, of growing dust and decline. Perhaps invaders came, though the evidence for widespread conflict here is scarce. Or maybe the society, so meticulously ordered, simply became too rigid, unable to adapt to the profound environmental changes. You witness the gradual exodus, families packing their meager belongings, looking back at their homes, their city for the last time. The rhythmic clang of the metalworker ceases. The chatter at the well falls silent. The scent of cooking fires fades, replaced by the dry, metallic smell of abandoned earth. The once vibrant streets become eerily quiet. Dust begins to accumulate, fine particles carried on the wind, settling on every surface, filling every crack. The intricate brickwork, once a symbol of human ingenuity, now stands exposed to the elements, slowly eroding, crumbling back into the earth from which it came. The sounds of daily life are replaced by the whistling wind, the scuttling of small creatures, the occasional rustle of a determined plant pushing through a crack in a forgotten floor. You see the once proud buildings become shells, their timber roofs collapsing, their interiors filling with debris. The sun, once a source of life, now bakes the ruins, accelerating their decay. Sand, relentless and unforgiving, begins its slow, inexorable march, covering streets, engulfing homes, smoothing over the sharp angles of the city until it becomes one with the landscape. Generation after generation, the memory of Mohenjo-Daro fades, until it is nothing more than a whisper in the wind, a slight rise in the barren plain, its story buried beneath layers of time and earth. You feel the profound silence now, the absolute stillness that has replaced the vibrant hum of life. The grand public bath is now a dry, cracked basin, its purpose long forgotten. The granary, once overflowing, stands empty, a monument to a past abundance. The intricate seals, once pressed into clay for commerce, now lie scattered and broken, their language unreadable, their meaning lost. You are witnessing not a sudden catastrophe, but a slow, agonizing suffocation by the forces of nature and the relentless march of time. As you step back, leaving the ghost of Mohenjo-Daro to its silent vigil, you carry with you the profound understanding that even the most advanced, the most meticulously planned, and the most peaceful of civilizations can be erased, not by a conquering army, but by the subtle, unwavering forces of change. The whispering bricks remain, telling a story that we can only partially decipher, a testament to human ingenuity, resilience, and ultimate vulnerability. The city vanished, leaving behind a deep, resonant echo of what once was, a stark reminder that all empires, all cities, are ultimately made of dust. Now shift your perception, your surroundings. The air is cooler here, rich with the scent of fertile river soil, damp earth, and the distant wood smoke of countless fires. You're not in a dry, ancient desert, but in the lush, verdant heartland of North America, in a vast floodplain where two great rivers once converged. This is Cahokia, around 1050 CE, a massive, vibrant metropolis built not of brick or stone, but of earth itself. Feel the soft, slightly yielding soil beneath your moccasined feet. Yes, you're experiencing this as one of its inhabitants. Look up. It's not a towering skyscraper or a grand cathedral that dominates the skyline here, but a colossal earthen pyramid, rising over 100 feet into the cerulean sky. This is Monk's Mound, the largest prehistoric earthen construction in the Americas, and you are standing at its foot, a tiny speck against its immense, awe-inspiring bulk. Imagine the sheer human effort, the coordinated labor of thousands, to carry basket after basket of earth, packing it firmly, shaping it over generations. You can almost feel the ache in your muscles, the sweat stinging your eyes from the sheer magnitude of the task. The city around you doesn't follow a grid, not exactly. It radiates outwards from this central sacred space, a sprawling urban center home to tens of thousands. The dwellings are simpler here, wattle and daub huts with thatched roofs, clustering in neighborhoods that pulse with life. The sounds are different too, the rhythmic thump of grinding corn, the joyful shouts of children playing near the muddy banks of a pond, the distant chirping of birds from the towering forests that fringe the floodplain. You can hear the steady splash of paddles as dugout canoes ply the waterways, carrying goods and people. Walk through one of the residential areas. The path beneath your feet is well-worn, softened by generations of footsteps. The air is thick with the smell of roasting maize, the rich, earthy scent of cooking beans and squash, staples of the Cahokian diet. You might pass by a woman tending a small garden patch outside her home, her hands dark with soil, carefully coaxing life from the earth. You can almost feel the rough texture of the woven baskets she uses, the coolness of the fresh vegetables. The homes themselves are close-knit, suggesting a strong communal bond. Smoke curls lazily from central hearths, carrying the scent of burning wood and cooked food. As you peer through an open doorway, you might see a family gathered, sharing a simple meal, their faces illuminated by the flickering firelight. Their conversations are soft, punctuated by laughter and the murmurs of daily life. This isn't a city of isolation. It's a city of close-quarters living, where neighbors are an extended family. Beyond the residential clusters, you encounter open plazas, vast spaces where the entire community would gather for ceremonies, games, and feasts. Imagine the roar of the crowd, the thud of the chunky stone as it rolled across the packed earth, players running after it, their bodies lean and strong. The air would vibrate with the energy of competition, the excitement of the game, the collective breath held in anticipation. You feel the deep vibration of drum beats, the soaring notes of flutes, the chanting voices during rituals. These plazas are the beating heart of Cahokia, where its people express their spiritual and social identities. As you approach the Grand Central Plaza, your gaze is drawn again to Monk's Mound. You begin the ascent, your feet sinking slightly into the packed earth steps. It's a physical exertion, a slow, deliberate climb that mirrors the spiritual journey. With each step, the world below expands, revealing the vastness of this civilization. From the summit, the view is breathtaking. You see not just the city but the expansive agricultural fields stretching to the horizon, a patchwork of green and gold where maize, beans, and squash grow in abundance. The waterways, arteries of commerce and travel, gleam under the sun. You notice the precise alignment of certain structures with the solstices and equinoxes, particularly a great wooden circle, dubbed Woodhenge by modern archaeologists. Imagine standing within that circle at dawn on the summer solstice, watching the sun rise in perfect alignment with the massive posts, casting long dramatic shadows across the dew-kissed plaza. The air would be cool and crisp, carrying the scent of damp earth and awakening plants. The silence would be profound, broken only by the whispers of reverence and awe as the first rays of the sun touched the sacred ground. It's a moment of deep connection to the cosmos, a testament to the Cahokians' sophisticated understanding of the celestial dance. Cahokia was a center of trade, a crossroads for cultures across a vast network. Imagine the vibrant marketplace, not a fixed structure, but a bustling assembly of people from diverse groups, their languages a melodic cacophony. You might see furs from the north, obsidian from the west, shells from the coast, all exchanged for Cahokian pottery, tools, and agricultural surpluses. The air here would be alive with the energy of negotiation, the rustle of goods, the clinking of shell beads, the rich tapestry of human interaction. You can almost feel the smooth, cool surface of a polished stone effigy, or the rough texture of a deerskin cloak. Yet, this thriving urban center, this testament to human ingenuity and communal spirit, was built on a delicate balance. The very success of Cahokia, its massive population, its intensive agriculture, its reliance on a relatively limited area of fertile floodplain, began to sow the seeds of its decline. You sensed the growing strain, almost like a subtle shift in the wind. The vast forests that once surrounded the city, providing timber for homes, fuel for fires, and materials for tools, begin to recede. Imagine the relentless sound of axes chopping, the groan of falling trees, the expanding bald patches on the horizon. The scent of wood smoke, once comforting, now feels heavier, more pervasive. The rich soil, once endlessly bountiful, begins to show signs of depletion from continuous cultivation. Floods, once manageable, become more devastating as the cleared land offers less resistance to the raging waters of the rivers. Feel the rising anxiety in the community, the worries about diminishing harvests, the fear in the eyes of the farmers as the river encroaches further each season. The air, once vibrant with prosperity, now carries a subtle tension, a whisper of scarcity. Disease, too, would have been a constant, insidious threat in such a densely populated settlement. Imagine the coughs and fevers spreading through the close-knit communities, the grief of families losing loved ones. The scent of illness, of medicinal herbs, would mingle with the everyday smells, a grim reminder of human vulnerability. You hear the mournful cries during funeral rites, the collective sorrow that would weigh heavily on the community. Internal strife, too, may have played a part. As resources became scarcer, competition would have intensified. You can almost hear the hushed arguments, the rising tensions between different groups, the fracturing of the communal harmony that once defined Cahokia. The unifying vision, once so strong, begins to fray at the edges. The powerful religious and political elite, those who orchestrated the monumental construction of the mounds and directed the vast labor force, might have struggled to maintain control as their people faced increasing hardship. The grand ceremonies in the plazas become less frequent, their energy diminished. The markets, once bustling, see fewer traders, fewer goods. The rhythmic thump of corn grinding might become less consistent, a sign of dwindling supplies. One by one, families begin to leave, seeking new lands, fresh opportunities, away from the increasing challenges of the great city. You witness the silent departures, small groups heading out into the vast wilderness, their faces etched with a mixture of sorrow and hope. The mighty Monk's Mound, once a symbol of power and communal achievement, begins to stand in stark contrast to the emptying city around it. The wattle and daub homes, no longer tended, start to succumb to the elements. The thatched roofs sag and collapse. The wooden posts rot, and the mud walls slowly dissolve back into the earth, their carefully plastered surfaces eroding in the rain. The paths, once well-trodden, become overgrown with weeds and wild grasses. The sounds of human life slowly fade, replaced by the persistent chirping of insects, the rustle of wind through the tall grasses, and the calls of wild animals returning to reclaim their territory. The scent of wood smoke diminishes, replaced by the natural aromas of damp soil, growing vegetation, and the rich, untamed wilderness. The plazas, once alive with hundreds, then thousands, become empty, silent spaces where only the wind plays. You feel the silence deepen, the profound emptiness that settles over the city. Monk's Mound stands as a lonely sentinel, its purpose gradually obscured by the creeping vegetation. The precise alignments of Woodhenge are lost to the encroaching forest. The intricate pottery and tools, once symbols of a vibrant culture, now lie buried, waiting for future hands to uncover them. Cahokia, once a beacon of civilization, slowly, deliberately, returned to the earth that had given it birth. As you turn to leave, you look back at the immense earthen structures. They are not merely mounds of dirt. They are the petrified echoes of human ambition, cooperation, and ultimately vulnerability. You realize that even the most enduring monuments, when built of fragile earth and sustained by delicate ecological balances, can be reabsorbed by the land. Cahokia vanished, leaving behind its colossal, silent earthen embrace, a powerful testament to the cyclical nature of life and the impermanence of even the grandest human endeavors. Now feel the sharp, biting wind whip around you, carrying the scent of salt spray and damp earth. The sky above is often gray, a vast expanse that stretches endlessly over a turbulent, churning sea. You are no longer in the fertile river valleys or sun-baked plains, but on the windswept Orkney Islands, off the coast of Scotland. The year is around 3100 BCE, and you are about to step into Skara Brae, a Neolithic village buried not by conquest or ecological collapse, but by the relentless, encroaching sands of time. Feel the dampness in the air, the chill that seeps into your bones even through your rough wool tunic. The ground beneath your bare feet is a mixture of packed earth and midden, discarded shells, bones, and ash that tell a story of millennia of human habitation. Look around you and you won't see towering structures or grand palaces. Instead, you'll see low, sturdy buildings made entirely of flagstones, carefully fitted together without mortar, almost like a giant, ancient jigsaw puzzle. These homes are partially submerged into the earth, built into mounds to protect against the fierce gales that constantly scour this exposed coastline. As you approach one of the dwellings, you have to stoop to enter through a low, narrow passageway. The entrance is covered by a stone slab, a simple but effective door to keep out the elements and the occasional wild creature. Inside, the air is surprisingly warm, trapped by the thick earth walls and heated by a central hearth where a peat fire glows. The smell of burning peat, earthy and slightly acrid, fills the air, mingling with the faint aroma of cooked fish and damp stone. You feel the rough texture of the flagstones beneath your fingers as you steady yourself. Your eyes adjust to the dim light filtering in from a small opening in the roof, and you marvel at the interior. This is not a rough, primitive dwelling. This is a meticulously organized, almost modern-looking living space. Against the far wall, a stone dresser stands, its shelves likely holding carved stone bowls, tools, and perhaps decorative objects. To your right, a large stone bed, built directly into the wall, is covered with soft animal hides and dried heather, offering a surprisingly comfortable resting place. Another, smaller bed sits opposite it, presumably for children. You can almost feel the scratchy wool of the hides, the springy give of the heather. To your left, near the hearth, you see a small tank, likely used to keep live shellfish, filled with fresh water. Imagine scooping out a clam or a mussel, the cool, salty water dripping from your hands, a direct connection to the bounty of the sea. The sounds inside are muted, the roar of the ocean a distant rumble, the wind merely a sigh around the solid stone walls. Here, within these walls, there is a sense of enduring peace, a sanctuary against the harshness of the outside world. You might see a woman sitting by the hearth, her hands busy spinning wool from a distaff, her movements practiced and fluid. Her simple garment is made of rough, undyed wool, practical for the cold climate. Her face is weathered by the elements, her eyes sharp and intelligent. Across from her, a man might be meticulously carving a piece of bone into a tool, his brow furrowed in concentration, the subtle scraping sound echoing softly in the small room. You can almost feel the coolness of the bone, the sharpness of the flint he uses. The people of Skara Brae were not isolated. They were part of a wider network, trading with other settlements, utilizing the rich marine resources around them. Imagine walking with them along the rugged coastline, feeling the gritty sand between your toes, the cold spray of the waves on your face as they gather shellfish, fish with simple nets, or hunt seals. The calls of seabirds, gulls, fulmars, puffins, fill the air, a constant soundtrack to their lives. The scent of seaweed, iodine-rich and primal, is ever present. The community here is close-knit, relying on each other for survival. You might see children playing on the grassy slopes above the village, their laughter carried on the wind, their faces rosy from the cold. They would be learning the skills of their elders, observing, imitating, slowly becoming proficient in the art of survival in this demanding environment. The air, despite the cold, feels vibrant with the energy of human connection, of shared purpose. As days turn into weeks and weeks into months, you begin to understand the rhythms of life in Skara Brae. The long, dark winters spent huddled by the fire, sharing stories and warmth. The brief, intense summers when the sun barely dipped below the horizon, spent diligently gathering resources, fishing and preparing for the lean months. The constant battle against the elements, the gratitude for a successful hunt, the quiet satisfaction of a well-built home. But a subtle, insidious force is at work here, one that the inhabitants of Skara Brae may not have fully comprehended until it was too late. The land itself is changing. The sea, the giver of life, is also a relentless enemy. Coastal erosion, driven by powerful storms and rising sea levels, is slowly eating away at the land. And then there is the sand. Fine, ubiquitous sand, carried by the ceaseless winds, begins to creep into every crevice, to pile up against the carefully constructed walls, to slowly, relentlessly engulf the very village. Imagine the increasing effort required to clear the sand from doorways, from hearths. Feel the gritty texture clinging to everything, dulling the vibrancy of life. The fierce storms, once a manageable challenge, become more frequent, more violent, bringing with them not just rain and wind, but massive drifts of sand that bury homes deeper and deeper. The air, once merely salty and damp, now carries a constant, abrasive hiss of blowing sand. You witness the people struggling against this slow, encroaching tide. They build new walls, raise their doorways, but it is a losing battle. The valuable agricultural land, once providing barley and other crops, is slowly being choked by the infertile sand. The resources they rely on become harder to access. The wild animals they hunt move further inland. The once plentiful fish may shift their migration patterns, leaving the coastal waters emptier. The warmth inside the homes becomes harder to maintain as sand insulates the outer walls differently, affecting the carefully balanced ventilation. The peat supply, once seemingly endless, might begin to dwindle, forcing longer, more dangerous journeys to gather fuel. You feel the growing despair, the quiet resignation in the faces of the villagers as they realize their fight is against an enemy they cannot conquer, the very earth and sea. One by one, families begin to abandon their sand-choked homes. They might dismantle the precious stone furniture, taking parts with them, or simply leave everything behind, knowing the sand will claim it. The peat fires in the hearths die out, replaced by the damp chill of abandonment. The sounds of human life, the spinning, the carving, the laughter, the communal murmurs, are gradually replaced by the relentless sigh of the wind and the hiss of the encroaching sand. The carefully constructed homes become silent tombs, their interiors slowly filling with the fine, wind-borne particles. The stone dressers are buried, their shelves no longer holding tools or treasures. The beds, once warm with human bodies, are cold and barren, swallowed by the accumulating sand. The narrow passageways, once bustling with daily traffic, become choked and impassable. The storms continue, unceasing, unforgiving. The sand piles higher and higher, covering the roofs, then the upper walls, eventually burying the entire village beneath a protective blanket. The land above, once green with grass and heather, becomes a shifting, undulating dune, giving no hint of the sophisticated community lying beneath. The calls of the seabirds, the roar of the ocean, become the only sounds, undisturbed by human presence. You feel the profound silence now, the deep, insulating quiet of centuries of burial. Skara Brae, once a vibrant hub of Neolithic life, vanished from the surface of the earth, not in a fiery cataclysm but in a slow, gentle entombment. It was wrapped in a sandy embrace, preserving it almost perfectly, a time capsule waiting for millennia to be rediscovered. As you rise from this ancient, silent dwelling, you look back at the mound that now covers it. You realize that sometimes, forgetting is a form of preservation. Skara Brae wasn't destroyed, it was simply absorbed by its environment, protected from the ravages of war and human development by the very force that displaced its people. You carry with you the chilling understanding that even the most innovative and resilient communities can be silently erased by the slow, inexorable march of natural processes, leaving only a whisper of stone buried beneath the shifting sands of time. Now, let the oppressive humidity of a tropical savanna wash over you. The air is thick with the scent of sun-baked earth, distant grass fires, and the rich, earthy aroma of fertile soil. You are deep in the heart of southern Africa, around the 14th century CE, and you are standing before the enigmatic, towering stone walls of Great Zimbabwe, the capital of a vast and powerful kingdom. Feel the coarse, gritty soil beneath your calloused feet. Yes, you are here as one of its diligent inhabitants. Look up. Your gaze follows the curve of the colossal dry stone walls, rising over 30 feet high, stretching over 800 feet long. There is no mortar binding these stones. They are simply stacked, meticulously cut and fitted with such precision that you couldn't slip a blade between them. Imagine the sheer engineering genius, the patient, collective labor of generations, to raise these monumental structures. You can almost feel the rough, cool granite under your palm, the subtle vibrations of human effort imprinted into the stone. You are in the great enclosure, the most iconic part of the city. The air inside these curving walls is cooler, hushed, almost sacred. The sun casts dramatic shadows, making the intricate patterns in the stonework dance. The silence here is profound, broken only by the distant cooing of doves and the rustle of a faint breeze. You can smell the ancient dust, the faint aroma of wild grasses and perhaps the lingering scent of ceremonial fires. Beyond the great enclosure, the city sprawls, a complex tapestry of stone buildings, circular huts made of daga, a mix of clay and gravel, and cultivated fields. The sounds are a vibrant blend, the lowing of cattle, a sign of wealth and sustenance, the gentle laughter of children, the rhythmic thud of pestles grinding grain, and the occasional burst of song. This is a thriving, bustling metropolis, a center of trade, power, and spiritual significance. Feel the texture of a small clay pot, rough yet finely crafted, filled with fresh water. The coolness of the water is a welcome relief in the dry heat. You might see a woman carrying such a pot gracefully on her head, her back straight, her movements economical and strong. Her attire is simple, made of woven cotton or perhaps animal hide, adorned with intricate beadwork that glints in the sunlight. As you wander through the residential areas, you notice the clever integration of natural rock formations with human constructions. The daga huts, though ephemeral compared to the stone walls, are skillfully built, providing warmth in winter and coolness in summer. Smoke curls from their conical roofs, carrying the distinct smell of wood smoke and cooking. Inside you might see families gathered around a low fire, sharing stories, preparing meals, their voices a soft murmur in the humid air. Great Zimbabwe was a vital nexus in a vast trading network that stretched across Africa and beyond. Imagine the vibrant marketplace, a kaleidoscope of colors, sounds, and smells. You might see merchants from the coast, dressed in different attire, their voices mingling with the local Shona language. You'd find not just local produce but exotic goods. Glass beads from India, porcelain from China, brass and copper from distant mines. But most importantly, you'd see gold. Gold, panned from local rivers, mined from rich seams, shaped into exquisite ornaments and traded for goods across the Indian Ocean. The glint of gold, the shimmer of beads, the exotic spices, the air here vibrates with the energy of commerce. You can almost feel the smooth, cool texture of a polished gold bead in your palm, its weight a testament to the city's wealth. Ascending to the hill complex, a natural granite outcrop that forms the spiritual and political heart of the city, you gain a breathtaking panoramic view. From here, you see the intricate layout of the entire settlement, the interplay of natural rock and human ingenuity. This is where the ruler, the Munhumatapa, would have resided, overseeing his kingdom, receiving dignitaries and conducting sacred rituals. The air here feels charged with ancestral power, with the weight of generations of leadership. You notice the soapstone birds, carved with exquisite detail, perched on pillars. These aren't mere decorations. They are sacred symbols representing ancestors, messengers to the spirit world, embodying the spiritual beliefs that underpin the kingdom's power. Imagine the reverence with which these objects were treated, the hushed prayers offered to them, the deep connection to the spiritual realm they represented. You can almost feel the cool, smooth surface of the carved stone. The economy of Great Zimbabwe was not just based on trade. It was underpinned by sophisticated cattle herding and agriculture. Imagine the vast herds of cattle, their hides sleek and brown, grazing in the distant savanna, a visible symbol of the ruler's wealth and the kingdom's prosperity. The rhythmic sound of their hooves, the lowing of calves, would carry across the plains. The fertile land, carefully cultivated, provided sorghum, millet and other crops, ensuring sustenance for the large population. The scent of freshly tilled earth, the sweetness of growing grain, would fill the air during planting season. Life here, while prosperous, was not without its challenges. The relentless sun, the periodic droughts, the ever-present threat of disease, all tested the resilience of the people. But the strength of their social structure, their spiritual beliefs, and the ingenuity of their agricultural practices allowed them to thrive for centuries. You feel a sense of enduring strength, a deep connection to the land and to each other that is palpable. Yet, as you stand atop the hill complex, feeling the breeze whisper secrets through the ancient stones, a subtle shift begins to occur. The very success of Great Zimbabwe begins to sow the seeds of its decline. The vast herds of cattle, while a sign of wealth, put increasing pressure on the grazing lands. The intensive agriculture, vital for feeding the growing population, slowly begins to deplete the soil. You notice the distant grasslands appearing less lush, more prone to erosion. The scent of overgrazed earth, dry and dusty, begins to mingle with the richer aromas. The once abundant timber needed for fuel and construction becomes scarcer, requiring longer, more arduous journeys to procure. Imagine the sounds of axes growing more distant, the visible signs of deforestation around the city. The air, once clear with natural aromas, begins to feel heavier with the constant wood smoke, a sign of dwindling resources. Then there's the shifting geopolitical landscape. New trade routes emerge, perhaps further north or closer to the coast, bypassing Great Zimbabwe. Imagine the caravans, once a constant stream of wealth and exotic goods, becoming less frequent, their absence leaving a growing void in the city's economy. The vibrant marketplace, once a cacophony of languages and haggling, grows quieter, the exotic goods scarcer. You feel the subtle economic pinch, the growing uncertainty in the eyes of the merchants. Internal political strife, too, may have played a significant role. As resources dwindled and trade routes shifted, the centralized power of the Munhumatapa might have weakened. Competing chiefs, seeking new sources of wealth and power, might have established new centers of influence, drawing people away from the old capital. You can almost hear the hushed whispers of discontent, the subtle challenges to authority, the growing fissures within the kingdom. The grand ceremonies become less frequent, their energy diminished. The spiritual authority, once absolute, begins to wane. The intricate beadwork and gold ornaments, once abundant, become rarer, a sign of declining prosperity. One by one, families begin to leave, seeking better opportunities in newly emerging settlements, drawn by promises of more fertile land or more lucrative trade. You witness the silent departures, small groups gathering their meager belongings, casting a last longing look at the once mighty stone walls. The daga huts, no longer tended, slowly begin to crumble. Their thatched roofs sag and collapse, their mud walls dissolving back into the earth. The sounds of human life, the grinding of grain, the lowing of cattle, the laughter of children, are gradually replaced by the sounds of the encroaching savanna. The chirping of crickets, the rustle of wind through the tall grass, the calls of wild birds and animals reclaiming their territory. The scent of wood smoke fades, replaced by the wilder, untamed aromas of the natural world. The great stone walls, once vibrant with activity, become silent and solemn. The intricate stonework, once polished by countless hands, slowly weathers under the relentless sun and rain. The soapstone birds, once objects of profound reverence, may have been taken, broken, or simply forgotten, their sacred meaning lost to the passing generations. The pathways, once worn smooth by countless feet, become overgrown with resilient vegetation. You feel the profound silence deepen, the absolute stillness that settles over the city. Great Zimbabwe, once the beating heart of a powerful kingdom, slowly, deliberately returned to the wild, swallowed not by a sudden catastrophe, but by the slow, inexorable forces of environmental degradation, economic shifts, and political fragmentation. The grand stone walls, though still standing, become silent sentinels, guarding a forgotten past, their purpose obscured by time and encroaching wilderness. As you step away from the ancient, silent stones, you carry with you the chilling understanding that even the most impressive and enduring monuments, when built upon fragile ecological balances and subject to shifting global dynamics, can eventually be abandoned. Great Zimbabwe vanished, leaving behind its colossal, silent embrace, a powerful testament to human ambition, ingenuity, and the ultimate impermanence of even the grandest human endeavors in the face of environmental and socio-economic change. The whispers of a forgotten kingdom linger in the wind, a powerful reminder that all empires, no matter how mighty, are subject to the relentless march of time. Shift your perspective once more. The air is thin and crisp here, carrying the dry, clean scent of pine and juniper, mingled with the faint, earthy aroma of sandstone. You are high in the rugged mesas of the American Southwest, around the 12th century CE. Below you, carved into the sheer, majestic cliffs, are the intricate, multi-story dwellings of the ancestral Puebloans. This is Mesa Verde, a series of communities built into nature itself, a testament to human resilience and adaptation. Feel the cool, rough texture of the sandstone beneath your fingertips as you cautiously navigate a narrow ledge. Look down into the vast, silent canyons, and then across, to the dramatic overhangs where these cliff cities cling precariously. These aren't just homes. They are architectural marvels, integrated seamlessly into the natural rock formations, providing protection from the elements and defense against potential adversaries. Imagine the incredible effort, the meticulous planning, the sheer determination required to construct these settlements in such an inaccessible location, hauling every stone, every beam, every pot of clay up and down treacherous paths. You can almost feel the strain in your muscles, the grit of the sandstone under your feet as you climb. As you descend into one of the larger cliff dwellings like Cliff Palace, the temperature immediately drops. The air is cooler, sheltered from the relentless sun. The sounds are muted, the wind a distant sigh above the canyon rim. Here, within the cool embrace of the alcove, you hear the quiet murmurs of daily life, the rhythmic thud of women grinding corn on metates, the soft scuffing of bare feet on packed earth floors, the gentle cooing of doves nesting in the overhangs. The scent of roasting maize, of wood smoke from small hearths, and the earthy smell of adobe clay fills the air. You walk through narrow passageways, sometimes so tight you have to turn sideways, connecting rooms and levels. The walls are made of carefully cut and shaped sandstone blocks, held together with adobe mortar, often plastered smoothly on the interior. Small doorways, typically T-shaped, invite you into intimate living spaces. Inside you might see shelves carved into the rock, holding clay pots and baskets woven with incredible skill from yucca and willow. The light here is often dim, filtering in from small windows or doorways, creating a warm, earthy glow. Feel the smooth, cool surface of a clay alya filled with precious water, its weight surprisingly substantial. Water was life in this arid land, and every drop was conserved. You might see a woman carefully pouring water from such a pot into a smaller drinking vessel, her movements precise and deliberate. Her clothes are simple, woven from cotton, perhaps adorned with geometric patterns. Her hair is often intricately styled, reflecting cultural identity. Below the main living areas you see circular, subterranean chambers, the kivas. These are sacred spaces, central to the spiritual and ceremonial life of the Puebloans. Imagine descending into one, the air growing cooler, heavier with the scent of ancient rituals. The fire pit in the center would cast flickering shadows on the plaster walls, illuminating murals of animals, plants, and geometric designs. The air would be filled with the deep, resonant chants, the rhythmic drumming, the shared sense of spiritual connection. You feel the coolness of the earth walls, the spiritual weight of the space. The ancestral Puebloans were master farmers, adapting ingeniously to their harsh environment. From the cliff dwellings, you can see small terraced fields on the mesa tops and canyon floors, where maize, beans, and squash were painstakingly cultivated. Imagine the back-breaking labor of carrying water from distant springs to these fields, tending to each precious plant, praying for rain. The scent of dry earth, of growing crops, is testament to their deep connection to the land and their agricultural prowess. Life here, while communal and deeply spiritual, was also physically demanding. Every task, from gathering firewood on the mesa top to hunting deer or rabbit in the canyons, required strength and perseverance. The children, nimble and quick, would learn these skills from an early age, navigating the treacherous paths with an innate ease that would fill you with awe. The sounds of their laughter, mingled with the serious tones of adult instruction, echo against the canyon walls. As seasons passed, you'd become attuned to the subtle shifts in the environment. The intense heat of summer, forcing people into the shade of the alcoves. The biting cold of winter, making the small hearths in their homes and kivas absolute sanctuaries. The sudden, violent thunderstorms that would send torrents of water cascading down the canyon walls, momentarily transforming the dry landscape. These cycles dictated their lives, shaped their beliefs, and forged their enduring resilience. But a profound, devastating change began to sweep across the region. A change that would slowly and inexorably lead to the abandonment of these magnificent cliff cities. The climate, once challenging but predictable, began to shift. A prolonged drought, lasting for decades, slowly gripped the land. You noticed the subtle signs at first. The springs become weaker, the streams thinner. The rich, earthy scent of damp soil is replaced by the pervasive smell of dry dust, of parched earth. Imagine the growing anxiety in the community. The careful irrigation systems, once sufficient, are now barely enough. The crops, once dependable, begin to wither and die in the fields. Feel the knot in your stomach as you look at the parched maize stalks, the shriveled squash plants. The rhythmic thud of corn grinding becomes less frequent, the sound of empty stomachs more prevalent. The joyous laughter of children is replaced by the muted cries of hunger. The once plentiful game animals, deprived of water and vegetation, begin to disappear from the canyons and mesa tops. The hunting parties return with less and less, their faces grim. The scent of cooking meat, once a comforting aroma, becomes a rare luxury. The precious water in the clay alas, once cool and refreshing, becomes warm and brackish, rationed with extreme care. You feel the constant thirst, the gnawing hunger, the slow, insidious desperation that settles over the community. The kivas, once vibrant with communal rituals, become places of desperate prayer, pleas for rain that seem to go unanswered. The spiritual leaders, once revered, might struggle to maintain hope and order in the face of such relentless environmental hardship. The close-knit community, once a source of strength, begins to feel the strain of scarcity, leading to internal tensions, hushed arguments over dwindling resources. One by one, families begin to make the heartbreaking decision to leave. They would gather their few precious belongings, tools, seeds, sacred objects, and begin the arduous journey out of the canyons, seeking new lands, new sources of water, new hope. Imagine the silence of their departure, the profound sadness of leaving behind generations of ancestors, homes carved with immense labor and love. You witness their determined, weary faces, their eyes fixed on a distant, uncertain future. The sound of corn grinding ceases entirely. The soft scuffing of bare feet on packed earth fades to nothing. The gentle cooing of doves becomes the only sound, undisturbed by human presence. The small hearths in the dwellings grow cold, their smoke replaced by the clean, empty scent of dry sandstone. The carefully tended fields on the mesa tops become overgrown with tough, drought-resistant weeds, slowly reclaiming the land. The intricately built homes, once vibrant with life, become silent witnesses to the passage of time. The clay pots and baskets left behind slowly crumble into dust. The plaster on the walls peels and flakes, revealing the bare stone beneath. The T-shaped doorways stand open, inviting only the wind and the occasional animal. The kivas, once filled with the warmth of ceremony, become cool, silent chambers, their murals slowly fading in the eternal twilight. You feel the profound silence deepen, the absolute stillness that settles over these majestic cliff cities. Mesa Verde, once a beacon of ingenuity and community, slowly, deliberately, returned to the embrace of the earth and the wind. Not in a sudden cataclysm, but in a slow, agonizing exodus, forced by a changing climate that deprived them of their very means of survival. The stunning architecture remains, a poignant echo of a people who once thrived here, their lives inextricably linked to the land. As you ascend from the quiet, empty dwellings, you look back at the grand structures clinging to the cliffs. You realize that even the most ingenious adaptations, the most profound spiritual connections to the land, cannot always overcome the relentless power of environmental change. Mesa Verde vanished, its people dispersed, leaving behind a hauntingly beautiful testament to their existence, a stark reminder that resilience has its limits, and that even the most formidable homes can be rendered uninhabitable by the subtle, unwavering forces of nature. The echoes of a forgotten people linger in the canyon winds, a powerful testament to the fragility of human civilization in the face of a changing world. Now feel the hot, heavy air cling to you, thick with the scent of damp earth, decaying leaves, and the intoxicating fragrance of tropical flowers. The sounds around you are a symphony of the jungle, the incessant chirping of cicadas, the distant cries of exotic birds, the rustle of unseen creatures in the dense undergrowth. You are in the heart of Southeast Asia in the 12th century CE, amidst the sprawling, monumental city of Angkor, the magnificent capital of the Khmer Empire. Feel the damp, cool stone beneath your bare feet, worn smooth by centuries of human traffic. Look up. Your gaze is immediately drawn to the majestic towers of Angkor Wat, rising majestically into the humid sky, their intricate carvings depicting epic tales of gods and kings. This isn't just a temple, it's a cosmic mountain, a representation of the universe, built on a scale that defies belief. Imagine the countless hands that carved every bas-relief, the thousands of elephants that hauled the immense sandstone blocks, the ingenuity and devotion that brought this vision to life. You can almost feel the smooth, cool surface of the sandstone, the fine grit of the dusted sheds. You are within the sprawling city of Angkor Thom, the vibrant heart of the empire. The sounds are a rich tapestry of life, the clamor of construction as new temples and causeways are constantly being built, the shouts of merchants in the bustling markets, the rhythmic clang of gongs and the delicate melodies of flutes from temple rituals, the splashing of water from the vast reservoirs, known as barays, that crisscross the landscape. The air is thick with the scent of incense, cooking spices, and the sweet, heavy perfume of jasmine. Walk along the wide causeways that lead to the city gates, flanked by rows of giant stone figures holding serpents. The stone under your feet is warm, almost radiating the sun's heat. You might see elephants, adorned with colorful trappings, lumbering past, carrying VIPs or heavy loads. Young monks, their saffron robes a splash of color against the green jungle, move with quiet dignity. Everywhere you look, there is a sense of immense power, profound spirituality, and ceaseless activity. Enter a residential quarter where wooden stilt houses, thatched with palm leaves, cluster along the banks of canals. The air here is slightly cooler, breezier. The scent of cooking fish, of rice, of fresh herbs, wafts from open doorways. You can hear the gentle creak of the wooden structures, the murmur of conversations carried on the breeze, the splash of children playing in the water below. You feel the warm, humid air, the subtle dampness on your skin. Angkor was an engineering marvel, a vast hydraulic city. The immense barrays and complex network of canals were not just for drinking water. They were for irrigating rice paddies, the lifeblood of the empire, allowing for multiple harvests a year and supporting a population of perhaps 1 million people. Imagine standing beside one of these vast reservoirs, the water stretching to the horizon, reflecting the impossibly blue sky. The sheer scale of it is humbling, a testament to their mastery over their environment. As you explore further, you encounter other grand temples, each with its own unique character. Ta Prohm, where colossal trees grow directly out of the stone, their roots entwining with the ancient walls, as if nature itself is reclaiming the sacred space even now. Imagine it then, newly built, the carvings fresh, the courtyards bustling with monks and devotees. The sounds would be of chanting, of ceremonial bells, of quiet prayer, mingled with the constant hum of the jungle. The culture here is rich and vibrant, deeply influenced by Hindu and then Buddhist traditions. The walls of the temples are not just decorative, they are textbooks of history, mythology, and daily life, carved in exquisite detail. You might see a sculptor at work, his tools chipping away at the sandstone, slowly bringing a deity or a warrior to life. The rhythmic tap-tap-tap of his mallet, the fine dust of stone in the air, speaks of devotion and skill. You can almost feel the rough, granular texture of the sandstone before it is smoothed and polished. Life here, for many, was a cycle of intense labor, religious devotion, and communal celebration. The rice farmers toiled in the paddies, their backs bent under the fierce sun, their feet sinking into the cool mud. The artisans crafted exquisite jewelry, pottery, and textiles. The priests conducted elaborate rituals. And the royalty, the god-kings, presided over it all, their power buttressed by their divine connection and the immense wealth flowing through the empire. But as you stand in the majestic heart of this flourishing empire, a subtle unease begins to creep in. The very scale of Angkor's success, its reliance on a complex and centralized hydraulic system, makes it profoundly vulnerable. The climate, once bountiful, begins to shift. A series of prolonged droughts, interspersed with unusually heavy monsoon floods, begin to destabilize the delicate balance of their water management. You notice the distant barrays appearing lower, their edges receding. The scent of damp earth and lush vegetation is subtly replaced by the dry, dusty smell of parched soil. Imagine the growing anxiety in the community. The rice paddies, once green and teeming, begin to crack and wither. Feel the knot in your stomach as you look at the parched rice stalks, the diminishing yields. The rhythmic sound of pounding rice, once a constant, comforting presence, grows fainter, replaced by the hushed whispers of worry and hunger. The joyous chatter of children becomes more subdued, their faces etched with the pangs of scarcity. Then the opposite extreme, devastating floods. The intricate system of canals and dams, designed to bring life-giving water, now struggles to cope with torrents, breaking banks, eroding fields. The water, once a blessing, becomes a destructive force, sweeping away homes, crops, and even lives. You feel the terror of the sudden deluge, the muddy waters swirling around your stilt house, the desperate scramble to save belongings. The air becomes heavy with the smell of wet earth, rotting vegetation, and the bitter tang of loss. Constant warfare with neighboring kingdoms, particularly the Cham, also took its toll. Imagine the sounds of distant battle, the fear in the eyes of the people as armies marched through their lands. The clang of swords, the shouts of warriors, the devastation of raided villages. Resources that should have been used to maintain the crucial hydraulic infrastructure are diverted to military campaigns, further weakening the empire from within. You feel the pervasive sense of insecurity, the constant threat looming over their lives. The maintenance of the vast, complex water system required constant labor and meticulous oversight. As the empire faced environmental and military challenges, this centralized control began to weaken. The canals silted up, the dams broke, and the once mighty barrays became less efficient. The precise alignment of the universe, once reflected in their waterworks, slowly began to unravel. One by one, families, disillusioned and desperate, begin to leave the grand city. They might move to the coast or to smaller, more manageable settlements, seeking easier access to resources and less vulnerability. Imagine the silent departures, the sight of entire villages abandoning their homes, their faces etched with a mixture of sorrow and a grim determination to survive. You witness their determined, weary faces, their eyes fixed on a distant, uncertain future. The construction of new temples ceases. The sounds of chiseling and carving fade. The gongs and flutes in the temple courtyards fall silent, replaced by the rustle of leaves and the persistent hum of the jungle. The incense burners grow cold, their sweet scent replaced by the raw, earthy smell of encroaching wilderness. The once bustling markets become eerily quiet, the pathways overgrown. The mighty wooden structures of the residential city, no longer maintained, begin to succumb to the relentless humidity and the voracious appetite of the jungle. The thatch roofs rot and collapse. The wooden stilts weaken, and the houses slowly return to the earth. The intricate carvings on the great stone temples, once pristine, become covered in moss and lichen. Tree roots, powerful and relentless, begin to pry apart the meticulously fitted stones, slowly reclaiming the monumental structures for nature. You feel the profound silence deepen, the absolute stillness that settles over these once grand temples. Angkor, once the vibrant heart of a mighty empire, slowly, deliberately, returned to the embrace of the jungle. Not in a sudden cataclysm, but in a slow, agonizing suffocation by environmental degradation, military conflict and internal decline. The magnificent stone temples remain, silent witnesses to a forgotten era, their intricate carvings now guarded by the encroaching roots of ancient trees. As you step away from the quiet, empty ruins, you look back at the immense stone structures being slowly consumed by the jungle. You realize that even the most powerful empires, with their sophisticated engineering and profound spiritual beliefs, are ultimately vulnerable to the relentless forces of nature and the internal struggles of their own creation. Angkor vanished, its people dispersed, leaving behind a hauntingly beautiful testament to their existence, a stark reminder that even the grandest cities can be swallowed by the silent, unwavering march of time and the reclaiming power of the wild. The whispers of a forgotten empire linger in the humid jungle air, a powerful testament to the transience of human endeavor. Now feel the warm, moist air, heavy with the scent of salt and lush tropical vegetation, gently caress your skin. The rhythmic lapping of the Pacific Ocean against ancient basalt walls is the constant soundtrack to this world. You are in the remote federated states of Micronesia, around the 12th century CE, standing in the heart of Nan Madol, a truly unique city of stone built not on land, but directly upon the coral reef, a Venice of the Pacific. Feel the cool, slick surface of the basalt rock beneath your bare feet, wet with the spray of the tide. Look around you. This isn't a city of earth or brick, but of colossal columns of basalt, some as long as 25 feet and weighing up to 50 tons, stacked geometrically like giant Lincoln logs. These dark, volcanic rocks form intricate platforms, walls, and canals, creating over 90 artificial islets that rise directly from the shallow waters of the lagoon. Imagine the incredible feat of engineering, the coordination of hundreds, perhaps thousands, to quarry these immense stones from distant volcanic vents, float them across the open ocean on rafts, and then hoist them into place using unknown methods. You can almost feel the strain in your muscles, the immense weight of the stone, the constant spray of salt water. You are navigating the maze of narrow channels, perhaps in a simple outrigger canoe, its paddles dipping silently into the clear turquoise water. The sun glints off the water, reflecting dazzlingly against the dark basalt walls. The air is alive with the gentle splash of paddles, the calls of seabirds, the distant murmur of voices carried across the water. The scent of salt, of damp coral, and of the unique marine life of the lagoon fills your nostrils. Each islet serves a specific purpose: residential quarters for chiefs and priests, ceremonial platforms, royal tombs, and administrative buildings. As you approach one of the larger islets like Nan Duwas, the scale of the architecture becomes truly overwhelming. The walls, rising over 25 feet high, create a sense of enclosure, a deliberate separation from the outside world. Inside, small courtyards and platforms are paved with coral rubble, providing solid ground amidst the water. You might step onto one of these coral pavements, feeling the rough, uneven surface under your feet. Here, in the shelter of the massive basalt walls, the air is cooler, more hushed. You might see servants going about their daily tasks, preparing food, weaving mats, or tending to small gardens cultivated in imported soil. Their attire is simple, made of woven fibers, often adorned with shell ornaments. Their skin is tanned by the tropical sun, their movements graceful and accustomed to the watery environment. Life in Nan Madol was deeply intertwined with the ocean. Fish and shellfish were abundant, providing the main source of sustenance. Imagine the fishermen returning in their canoes, laden with their catch, the glint of scales, the fresh smell of the ocean. The air would be filled with the chatter of people bartering for fresh fish, preparing it over small fires on the islets, the scent of roasting seafood mingling with the salt air. The society of Nan Madol was highly stratified, with a powerful priestly class and a supreme ruler, the Sauteleur, who controlled every aspect of island life. Imagine being a commoner, obligated to bring tribute, food, resources, labor, to the powerful elite who resided in these grand waterbound compounds. The air, while beautiful, carries a subtle undercurrent of rigid social order, of hierarchy etched into the very stones of the city. You might hear the formal chants of priests, the reverent silence of subjects in the presence of their ruler. As the sun sets, painting the sky in fiery hues of orange and purple, the city transforms. Torches begin to flicker on the islets, casting dramatic shadows against the dark basalt walls, illuminating the narrow channels. The rhythmic sounds of the ocean are joined by the gentle strumming of traditional instruments, the soft singing of communal songs, carried across the water. The scent of cooking fires, of night-blooming jasmine, becomes more pronounced. It's a magical, almost ethereal place, a city born from the water. But as you paddle through the silent, moonlit canals, a subtle unease begins to settle. The very uniqueness of Nan Madol, its isolation, its intense centralization of power, and its reliance on specific resources, would eventually lead to its decline. The quarrying of the basalt, a monumental undertaking, may have become unsustainable, exhausting local resources or demanding too much labor from the surrounding islands. You notice the visible signs of a slowing construction, fewer new basalt columns being added. The rhythmic sounds of stoneworking grow fainter. The highly centralized Sauteleur dynasty, while powerful, could also be oppressive. Imagine the growing resentment among the commoners on the surrounding islands, chafing under the demands for tribute and labor. The political control, once absolute, begins to fray at the edges. You can almost hear the hushed whispers of discontent, the subtle challenges to authority, the growing fissures within the kingdom. The fear of rebellion, of internal strife, begins to replace the earlier sense of serene order. Furthermore, the remote location and limited resources of the smaller islands meant that any disruption to the delicate ecological balance could be catastrophic. Overfishing, resource depletion, or even slight shifts in climate could have a profound impact on food supply. You feel the subtle economic pinch, the growing uncertainty in the eyes of the fishermen as their catches become smaller, the harvests from their limited gardens less bountiful. The air, once vibrant with prosperity, now carries a subtle tension, a whisper of scarcity. Then, around the 17th century, the Sauteleur dynasty finally collapsed, possibly due to a series of invasions from another island group, or perhaps from internal revolt fueled by famine and oppression. Imagine the sudden chaos, the sounds of battle breaking the quietude of the canals, the shouts of invaders, the desperate cries of defenders. The once impenetrable basalt walls, though formidable, could not withstand a determined assault from within or without, if the will to defend them had eroded. With the collapse of the central authority, the immense effort required to maintain and populate Nan Madol ceased. The constant flow of tribute, of labor, of resources from the outer islands dried up. The once bustling islets began to empty. Families, no longer bound by the Sauteleur's rule, dispersed back to their home islands, seeking simpler, more self-sufficient lives. You witness the silent departures, the canoes paddling away from the stone city, their occupants casting a last, longing look at the once grand basalt walls. The torches on the islets cease to flicker at night. The strumming of instruments and the communal songs fade into silence. The scent of cooking fires is replaced by the raw, untamed aromas of salt and decaying marine life. The narrow channels, once bustling with canoes, become eerily quiet, disturbed only by the relentless lapping of the tides. The elaborate basalt structures, once meticulously maintained, slowly begin to succumb to the relentless forces of tropical weather and the sea. The coral pavements become overgrown with salt-tolerant vegetation. The foundations, constantly battered by waves, erode. The intricate channels, once clear, begin to silt up, becoming shallower, less navigable. The dense jungle on the main island begins its slow, inexorable creep onto the edges of the artificial islets, its roots prying apart the ancient stones. You feel the profound silence deepen, the absolute stillness that settles over this watery city. Nan Madol, once a beacon of architectural ingenuity and centralized power, slowly, deliberately, returned to the embrace of the ocean and the jungle. Not in a sudden, dramatic destruction, but in a slow, agonizing abandonment, as its complex social and ecological balance unraveled. The colossal basalt walls remain, silent sentinels, guarding a forgotten past, their purpose gradually obscured by time and encroaching wilderness. As you paddle away from the quiet, empty islets, you look back at the grand structures slowly being consumed by the sea and the jungle. You realize that even the most audacious human creations, built against the very forces of nature, are ultimately vulnerable to political upheaval, environmental shifts, and the simple, overwhelming power of nature's reclamation. Nan Madol vanished, its people dispersed, leaving behind a hauntingly beautiful testament to their existence, a stark reminder that even the grandest cities can be swallowed by the silent, unwavering march of time and the reclaiming power of the wild, leaving only a watery dream. Now let the dry, searing heat of the desert sun prickle your skin, the scent of hot rock and fine dust filling your nostrils. The air is still, heavy, broken only by the distant bleating of goats and the gentle jingle of camel bells. You are in the arid heart of what is now Jordan, around the 1st century CE, standing on the outskirts of Petra, the magnificent capital of the Nabatean kingdom. Feel the coarse, warm sand beneath your bare feet, carrying you towards a wonder. Look up. You're not looking at conventional city walls, but at towering cliffs of rose-red sandstone, sculpted by millennia of wind and water. Ahead of you is the Sick, a narrow, winding canyon, its walls rising hundreds of feet, dramatically parting the desert. Imagine the awe, the anticipation, as ancient travelers approach this hidden city, their journey through the harsh desert culminating in this breathtaking, almost spiritual passage. You can almost feel the coolness of the deep shadows within the Sick, a blessed relief from the fierce sun. As you walk through the Sick, the air grows cooler, hushed. The natural silence is broken only by the echo of your own footsteps, the gentle drip of water from unseen springs, and the soft rustle of wind high above. The sandstone walls glow in a kaleidoscope of reds, pinks and oranges, changing with every turn. You see the ancient water channels ingeniously carved into the rock, bringing precious water from distant springs into the city, a testament to Nabatean hydraulic engineering. The scent of damp earth and cool, fresh water is a welcome reprieve in the dry air. Suddenly the Sick opens and you are confronted with an unbelievable sight. The treasury Al-Khazna, its colossal, intricately carved facade emerging from the cliff face, glowing in the morning sun. This isn't a building constructed brick by brick. It is sculpted directly from the living rock, a masterpiece of Hellenistic architecture blended with Nabatean artistry. Imagine the countless hours, the meticulous skill, the sheer devotion of the sculptors who painstakingly carved every detail, every column, every deity into the solid stone. You can almost feel the smooth, cool surface of the rock, the fine dust of sandstone that would have covered the air during its creation. You are now in the vibrant heart of Petra. The sounds are a bustling symphony, the chatter of merchants, the clatter of hooves on paved stone, the distant clang of a metal worker, the murmur of many languages, Aramaic, Greek, Latin. Petra was a vital hub on the ancient spice and incense routes, a crossroads of cultures and commerce. The air is thick with the scent of exotic spices, frankincense, myrrh, cinnamon, mingled with the aroma of roasting meat, strong coffee, and the musky scent of camels. Walk along the street of facades, where countless tombs and dwellings are carved into the cliffs, each one unique, each telling a story of the Nabatean people. The ground beneath your feet is paved with carefully laid flagstones, worn smooth by centuries of foot traffic. You might see a caravan arriving, laden with goods from Arabia and beyond, their camels grunting as they are unloaded. The excitement in the air is palpable, the energy of a thriving, wealthy city. Enter a typical Nabatean home, carved into the rock. The interior is surprisingly cool and spacious, offering a natural insulation from the desert extremes. Small niches carved into the walls serve as shelves, holding clay lamps, amphorae of oil, and domestic tools. Simple rugs cover the floor, offering warmth and comfort. You might see a family gathered, sharing a meal of dates, flatbread, and perhaps roasted lamb, their voices echoing softly in the rock-cut chamber. You can almost feel the rough texture of the rugs, the cool, smooth surface of a polished stone bowl. The Nabateans were master traders and hydrologists, their wealth built on controlling the flow of goods and the precious desert water. Beyond the city center, you see ingenious irrigation systems, reservoirs, and cisterns carved into the rock, collecting every drop of rain and spring water, allowing them to cultivate gardens and sustain their large population in this harsh environment. The scent of damp earth, of thriving plants in the midst of the desert, is a testament to their ingenuity. As you ascend to the monastery, Ad-Dair, another monumental facade carved high into the cliffs, you gain a breathtaking view of the surrounding landscape. From here, you see the vastness of the desert, the strategic location of Petra, almost perfectly hidden. This journey, a strenuous climb, would have been a pilgrimage, a test of devotion, leading to a profound spiritual experience. The air here is thin, clean, carrying only the whisper of the wind. Life here, while prosperous, was also disciplined and deeply connected to their unique environment. The Nabateans were skilled artisans, sculptors, and engineers. Their language, a form of Aramaic, adorned their inscriptions. Their spiritual beliefs, a blend of local deities and Hellenistic influences, were etched into their architecture. You feel a sense of enduring pride, a deep connection to their heritage and their remarkable ability to thrive where others would perish. But as you stand overlooking this magnificent, seemingly invincible city, a subtle unease begins to creep in. The very strength of Petra, its reliance on its strategic location and its control of trade routes, makes it vulnerable to shifting geopolitical landscapes. The rise of new empires, particularly Rome, brought about new trade patterns, new routes that began to bypass Petra. You notice the caravans becoming less frequent, their absence leaving a growing void in the city's economy. The vibrant marketplace, once a cacophony of languages and haggling, grows quieter, the exotic goods scarcer. You feel the subtle economic pinch, the growing uncertainty in the eyes of the merchants. Then, there was the devastating earthquake of 363 CE, a sudden, violent tremor that shook the very foundations of the city. Imagine the ground beneath your feet heaving, the terrifying roar of crumbling rock, the dust-choked air. While the rock-cut facades largely survived, many freestanding structures, homes, and vital water systems were damaged beyond repair. You feel the terror of the moment, the desperate scramble for safety, the cries of the injured. The scent of dust and fear would fill the air. Subsequent earthquakes further weakened the infrastructure and the spirit of the people. The precious water channels, once so carefully maintained, might have been irreparably damaged, leading to increasing scarcity. Imagine the constant thirst, the dwindling supplies, the desperation of trying to repair what seemed beyond repair. The air, once vibrant with prosperity, now carries a subtle tension, a whisper of decline and despair. The changing climate, with shifts in rainfall patterns, would have also played a role. Prolonged droughts, even for a people so skilled in water management, would have strained their resources. The once thriving gardens would wither, the wells run dry. You feel the gnawing hunger, the profound exhaustion of constantly battling the elements. One by one, families begin to leave Petra. The promise of easier lives elsewhere, of more stable trade, of more abundant water, would have drawn them away from the damaged, struggling city. They would gather their few precious belongings, casting a last, longing look at the rock-cut homes that had sheltered generations. You witness their determined, weary faces, their eyes fixed on a distant, uncertain future. The sound of commerce ceases entirely. The clatter of hooves on paved stone fades to nothing. The distant bleating of goats and the gentle jingle of camel bells become the only sounds, undisturbed by human presence. The small hearths in the dwellings grow cold, their smoke replaced by the clean, empty scent of dry sandstone. The carefully tended gardens wither, reclaimed by the unyielding desert. The magnificent facades, once vibrant with life and ceremony, become silent sentinels. The intricate carvings, once pristine, slowly weather under the relentless sun and wind, their details softening, blurring. The interior of the rock-cut homes, once warm with human presence, become cold and empty chambers. The narrow sick, once a bustling gateway, becomes an eerily quiet passage, visited only by the occasional Bedouin or adventurous traveler. You feel the profound silence deepen, the absolute stillness that settles over this once grand city. Petra, once a beacon of ingenuity, wealth, and strategic power, slowly, deliberately, returned to the embrace of the desert. Not in a sudden dramatic destruction that wiped it from memory, but in a slow, agonizing abandonment, forced by shifting trade, natural disasters, and the relentless march of time. The colossal rock-cut structures remain, silent witnesses to a forgotten era, their intricate carvings now guarded by the encroaching sands and the endless desert sky. As you step away from the quiet, empty facades, you look back at the grand structures carved into the cliffs. You realize that even the most formidable and beautiful cities, when their economic lifelines are severed and their infrastructure crippled by natural forces, can eventually become ghost towns. Petra vanished, its active life dispersed, leaving behind a hauntingly beautiful testament to their existence, a stark reminder that resilience has its limits, and that even the grandest creations can be rendered silent by the subtle, unwavering forces of change. The whispers of a forgotten kingdom linger in the desert wind, a powerful testament to the transience of human endeavor. Now feel the salt-laced wind whipping off the Aegean Sea, carrying the scent of wild herbs and dry earth. The sun beats down with a Mediterranean intensity, baking the hills and valleys. You are on the windswept mound of Hazarlik, in what is now Turkey, around the 13th century BCE. This is Troy, or rather one of its many incarnations, a city built layer upon layer, a testament to enduring strategic importance and repeated destruction. Feel the rough, dry soil beneath your sandals, the grit of countless ages of human habitation. Look up. You're not seeing a sprawling metropolis but a formidable citadel, its walls rising thick and strong, built of rough-hewn stone and sun-baked mud brick. These are the walls that have withstood sieges, that have seen centuries of history unfold. Imagine the sheer engineering required to raise these fortifications, the constant vigilance of its defenders, the sense of security and defiance they offered to the inhabitants within. You can almost feel the rough, uneven surface of the stones, warm from the sun, the subtle vibrations of ancient conflicts still lingering in the air. You are within the walls of Troy Via, often associated with the Homeric legend. The city, while compact, is bustling. The sounds are a mix of human and animal, the lowing of cattle, the bleating of sheep, the cries of merchants hawking their wares, the distant murmur of voices speaking a language that sounds ancient and unfamiliar. The clang of a blacksmith's hammer and the rhythmic scrape of a potter's wheel, these are the sounds of daily life, of a thriving Bronze Age community. The air is thick with the scent of wood smoke, baking bread, animal dung, and the ever-present aroma of dry earth. Walk along the narrow, winding streets, paved with rough cobbles and packed earth. The homes are closely packed, multi-storied structures made of mud brick and timber, often with courtyards where families would gather. Small windows, unglazed, offer glimpses into dimly lit interiors. You might see a woman tending a small garden patch, coaxing life from the dry soil, or children playing with simple clay toys in a sun-dappled courtyard. Their clothes are made of rough wool or linen, dyed in earthy tones. Their faces are weathered by the sun, their hands strong from labor. You can almost feel the rough texture of the sun-baked mud brick, the warmth of the ground. Troy's strategic location, controlling the Dardanelles, made it immensely wealthy. It was a vital choke point for maritime trade between the Aegean and the Black Sea, and a land bridge between Asia and Europe. Imagine the constant procession of ships passing through the straits, their sails billowing in the wind, paying tribute to the Trojan rulers. You might see merchants from distant lands in the marketplace, their exotic goods, amber from the north, tin from the west, spices from the east, exchanged for local produce, textiles and precious metals. The energy here is vibrant, a hub of international commerce and interaction. As you ascend to the highest point of the citadel, where the palace of the king would have stood, you gain a panoramic view of the surrounding plains and the shimmering Aegean. From here you truly understand Troy's importance, its vantage point over sea lanes and trade routes. The air is clearer, invigorating, carrying the scent of the sea. You notice the fertile fields stretching to the horizon, carefully cultivated to feed the city's population. Life here, though prosperous, was defined by its defensive posture. The towering walls, while a source of pride, also spoke of constant vigilance. The sounds of guards patrolling the ramparts, the distant cries of watchmen, would have been a constant backdrop to daily life. The threat of conflict, of rival kingdoms vying for control of its strategic location, was ever present. You feel the subtle undercurrent of tension, the awareness that their security was hard-won and constantly contested. The culture here was a rich blend, influenced by both Anatolian and Aegean traditions. You might see exquisite gold jewelry, intricate pottery, and skilled metalwork, reflecting the wealth and artistic prowess of the Trojans. Their spiritual beliefs, centered around a pantheon of gods and goddesses, would be reflected in small household shrines and public rituals. The air, though sometimes tense with anticipation, also carried the reverence of prayer, the offerings made for protection and prosperity. But as you stand within these formidable walls, a creeping sense of foreboding begins to set in. Troy, having fallen and risen many times, is about to face its most defining struggle, one that would echo through millennia of human history. The conflict with the Achaeans, immortalized in the Trojan War, is not merely a tale of heroes. It is a brutal, agonizing reality. Imagine the mounting tension as the Achaean fleet gathers in the bay, their black ships a grim presence on the horizon. Feel the surge of fear and defiance within the city. The clang of the blacksmith's hammer shifts from everyday tools to weapons of war. Spears, swords, armor. The rhythmic sounds of daily life are replaced by the somber thud of military preparations, the shouted commands of officers, the nervous chatter of soldiers. The air, once filled with the scent of commerce, now carries the metallic tang of fear and impending violence. The siege is long, brutal, and devastating. You witness the desperate sorties of Trojan warriors, their bronze armor glinting in the sun, clashing with the Achaean forces on the plains below. You hear the screams of the wounded, the clash of steel, the thud of bodies falling. The air becomes thick with the dust of battle, the stench of sweat, blood, and fear. Feel the constant hunger, the gnawing anxiety as food supplies dwindle within the besieged city. The majestic walls, though strong, are constantly pounded by siege engines, assaulted by relentless attacks. Imagine the desperate scramble of repairs, the cries of workers trying to patch breaches, the fear that permeates every corner of the city. The water systems, once so vital, are strained, contaminated, or cut off. The sounds of life become muted, replaced by the omnipresent hum of the enemy outside the gates, a constant psychological torment. Then comes the final devastating act, perhaps not with a giant wooden horse, but through treachery or a final, overwhelming assault after years of attrition. Imagine the moment the defenses are breached. The sudden, terrifying roar of invaders pouring into the city. The screams of the innocent, the clash of final, desperate battles in the streets and homes. The blinding smoke of burning buildings, the overwhelming stench of death and destruction. You feel the searing heat of the flames as timber-framed houses catch fire, the acrid smoke burning your lungs. The once bustling streets become scenes of carnage and chaos. The beautiful pottery, the exquisite jewelry, the tools of daily life, all are shattered, trampled, or plundered. The sounds of life are utterly silenced, replaced by the crackle of fire, the mournful cries of the dying, and the triumphant shouts of the conquerors. After the storm of battle, an eerie silence descends. The once proud citadel lies in ruins, its walls breached, its buildings scorched and collapsed. The scent of burning wood and human flesh hangs heavy in the air. The bodies of the fallen lie scattered, a grim testament to the brutality of war. The vibrant marketplace is now a desolate wasteland, its goods plundered, its spirit broken. The conquerors eventually leave, taking their spoils, leaving behind a smoldering shell. The wind whispers through the charred ruins, carrying fine dust and the ghostly echoes of a silenced city. The fertile fields, once carefully cultivated, become overgrown with weeds. The strategic location, once a source of wealth, now lies desolate, too scarred, too broken to attract new inhabitants for a long time. Over centuries, new settlements might rise on the same strategic mound, built upon the ashes of the old. But the vibrant, Bronze Age city of Troy, the one that defied the Achaeans, that inspired epic poems, that version of the city truly vanished. Its unique cultural identity, its specific way of life, its people, all were lost, buried beneath layers of subsequent habitations, each one a phantom of the past. You feel the profound silence deepen, the absolute stillness that settles over these ancient, scarred ruins. Troy, once a beacon of wealth, power, and defiance, was repeatedly destroyed and rebuilt, each iteration eventually succumbing to warfare, natural disaster, or changing political tides. But the version of Troy we focused on, the one that fought the legendary war, was wiped from the map, its physical form buried and its people scattered. As you step away from the layered ruins, you look back at the windswept mound. You realize that sometimes, a city vanishes not by being consumed by nature, but by being utterly erased by human conflict, leaving only a ghost in the collective memory, a haunting echo of heroism and tragedy. Troy vanished, its active life obliterated, leaving behind a hauntingly beautiful testament to its existence, a stark reminder that even the most fortified cities can fall, and that history is often written in blood and ashes. The whispers of an epic struggle linger in the Aegean wind, a powerful testament to the transience of human endeavor and the enduring power of myth. Now, let the warm, humid air of a sun-drenched Italian summer envelop you, thick with the scent of salty sea breeze, blooming oleander, and the pervasive acrid tang of volcanic sulfur carried on the wind. You are in the bustling Roman city of Pompeii, nestled at the foot of Mount Vesuvius, on a seemingly ordinary day in 79 CE. Feel the smooth, worn cobblestones beneath your leather sandals, still warm from the morning sun. Look around you. This isn't a lost city, this is a vibrant, thriving urban center. You are walking through the Forum, the heart of Pompeii. Grand temples, public buildings, and bustling market stalls surround you. The sounds are a cacophony of Roman life. The distant roar of the crowd from the amphitheater, the clatter of carts on the paved streets, the shouts of merchants, the chatter of gossiping citizens, the melodious calls of street vendors. The air is thick with the scent of baking bread, fermenting wine, roasted meat, and the sweet perfume of women. The city is a kaleidoscope of colors. Frescoes adorn the walls of homes, depicting mythological scenes, lush gardens, and everyday life. Mosaics glimmer underfoot, intricate patterns of tiny colored stones. You might see a politician delivering a passionate speech in the Forum, his toga draped impeccably, his voice resonating across the plaza. You can almost feel the rough texture of his toga, the cool marble of a statue nearby. Walk down the narrow, bustling streets, where chariot ruts are deeply etched into the stone. Raised stepping stones allow pedestrians to cross without getting their feet wet from the constant flow of street water. You might peek into a small shop, a taberna, where a baker pulls fresh loaves from a wood-fired oven, their crusts golden and crisp, the aroma utterly irresistible. Or perhaps a bar, a thermopolium, where hot food and wine are served to thirsty patrons, their laughter echoing from within. You feel the warmth emanating from the bakery, the subtle stickiness of spilled wine on the pavement. Enter a typical Pompeian domus, a private home. Beyond the austere facade, a rich world unfolds. You pass through the atrium, an open-air courtyard where rainwater collects in a basin, the impluvium. Frescoes decorate the walls, vibrant and colorful. In the peristyle, a colonnaded garden. Flowers bloom in riotous profusion, their sweet scent mingling with the earthy smell of damp soil. You might see a family gathered, sharing a meal, their voices a soft murmur, their lives unfolding in quiet comfort. You can almost feel the cool spray of water from a small fountain, the soft petals of a rose against your skin. The citizens of Pompeii come from all walks of life. Wealthy merchants, skilled artisans, industrious shopkeepers, and numerous slaves. You might encounter a scribe meticulously recording transactions, his stylus scratching softly on a wax tablet. Or a laundress, a Phalonica, stomping clothes in vats of human urine, a common cleaning agent. The pungent ammonia smell assaulting your nose. This is a city of diverse activity, of human striving and daily routines. As the morning progresses, you notice a subtle change in the air, a peculiar stillness that falls over the city. The distant rumbling from Mount Vesuvius, usually dismissed as a minor tremor, seems more pronounced, more persistent. The strange, acrid smell of sulfur becomes stronger, prickling your nose and making your eyes water. Animals, usually placid, grow restless, braying and whimpering. A sense of unease begins to spread through the bustling streets. Then around midday, a colossal roar. Look up. The sky, once a brilliant blue, is suddenly overshadowed by a massive, ominous cloud churning black and gray, erupting from the peak of Vesuvius. Feel the ground beneath your feet begin to tremble violently. The air is filled with a terrifying, deafening rumble, the sound of the world tearing itself apart. The sweet scent of flowers is instantly replaced by the overwhelming, suffocating smell of sulfur and ash. Panic erupts. The orderly streets dissolve into chaos. People scream, run, stumble, desperate to escape the impending doom. The roar of the volcano is incessant, accompanied by the whistle and hiss of countless projectiles raining down. Not lava, not yet, but pumice stones, light and gray but deadly. They begin to fall, first sparsely, then in a dense, relentless shower. You hear the sharp thud of stones hitting roofs, the cries of those struck. Imagine the absolute terror, the blinding dust, the suffocating ash coating everything. The sky turns a terrifying, unnatural black, even at midday. The sun is blotted out, plunging the city into an unnatural, terrifying darkness. The air becomes thick, unbreathable, filled with fine volcanic ash that clogs your throat and stings your eyes. Feel the grit of the ash in your mouth, the burning sensation in your lungs. The weight of the pumice and ash rapidly accumulates. Roofs begin to groan, then collapse with terrifying crashes, trapping and killing those inside. Buildings are slowly swallowed, their vibrant frescoes obscured, their mosaics buried. The once bustling streets become impassable as the debris piles higher and higher. People, choked by the ash, struggle to breathe, their last moments spent in desperate, futile attempts to escape. Then comes the pyroclastic flow. Not a slow, fiery river of lava, but a superheated, fast-moving wave of gas and volcanic debris, racing down the slopes of Vesuvius at hundreds of miles per hour. This is the truly deadly force, incinerating everything in its path. Imagine the searing heat, an instantaneous blast that carbonizes flesh, that freezes bodies in their final agonized postures. The air becomes an inferno, the heat unimaginable. You feel the sudden, intense heat, a flash that renders everything in an instant. There is no time to react, no time to even scream. The vibrant, living city, with all its sounds, smells, and colors, is obliterated, frozen in time. The laughter, the chatter, the smells of bread and wine, all are silenced, replaced by the profound, absolute stillness of petrified death. Hours, then days later, the eruption subsides. The sun, if it can be seen at all, shines on a radically altered landscape. Pompeii is gone, buried under layers of volcanic ash and pumice, a perfect, agonizingly preserved time capsule. The once towering Vesuvius now stands silent, its peak dramatically altered, a grim sentinel over the buried city. The bustling forum is now a silent, snow-like expanse of gray ash. The grand temples are reduced to ghostly outlines, their interiors filled with volcanic debris. The shops, the bakeries, the bars, all are entombed, their contents perfectly preserved in the suffocating blanket of ash. The homes, with their vibrant frescoes and intricate mosaics, are hidden from sight, awaiting discovery millennia later. You feel the profound silence now, the absolute stillness that settles over the buried city. Pompeii, once a vibrant, prosperous Roman city, was erased in a single catastrophic day, not by slow decline, but by the sudden, overwhelming power of nature. Its people, their lives, their every moment, were perfectly preserved in their final, desperate acts, leaving behind an unparalleled, harrowing snapshot of a city that vanished in an instant. As you step away from the silent, ash-covered city, you carry with you the chilling understanding that life, vibrant and bustling, can be extinguished in a single terrifying moment, leaving behind only the petrified echoes of its final breath. Pompeii didn't vanish without a trace in the sense of being lost to memory. It vanished from the surface of the earth, perfectly preserved as a testament to the unpredictable and brutal power of nature, a stark reminder that even the most thriving cities are built on the edge of geological giants, and that life itself is a fragile, fleeting gift. The echoes of a final agonizing gasp linger in the air, a powerful testament to the transience of human existence. Now let the dry, dusty air, heavy with the scent of hearth smoke, drying mud, and the distant tang of animal pens, settle around you. You are in the heart of Anatolia in what is now modern-day Turkey, around 7,500 BCE. This is Çatalhöyük, one of the earliest proto-cities in human history, a sprawling Neolithic settlement built not with streets, but with houses pressed shoulder to shoulder, entered exclusively from their rooftops. Feel the smooth, plastered mud of a rooftop beneath your bare feet, surprisingly warm from the sun. Look around you. This isn't a city of open plazas or winding streets. Instead, you see a continuous, undulating expanse of flat rooftops, stretching as far as the eye can see, forming a labyrinthine surface. Ladders, made of sturdy timber and animal hide, protrude from openings in the roofs, providing the only access to the homes below. Imagine the constant movement, the fluid dance of people navigating this elevated world, climbing up and down ladders, carrying baskets of goods, visiting neighbors. You can almost feel the rough texture of the timber ladder, the firmness of the packed mud roof. You are on a rooftop in Çatalhöyük, an extension of the communal living space. The sounds are distinct, the soft thump of feet on the roofs, the distant bleating of sheep and goats kept in nearby enclosures, the rhythmic scraping of tools on flint, and the quiet murmurs of conversation carried on the dry air. The air is thick with the pervasive scent of wood smoke from the hearths below, filtering up through the roof openings, mingling with the earthy smell of mud and the faint aroma of cooked grains. From your vantage point, you see people engaged in a myriad of activities. Women are grinding grain on stone querns, their movements strong and rhythmic. Children are playing, their laughter carried on the breeze, chasing each other across the rooftops. Men are tending to small repair tasks, patching mud walls, or working on their flint tools. This is a communal, interdependent existence, where every rooftop is a window into the life of the collective. Descend a ladder into one of the homes. The interior is surprisingly spacious, with multiple platforms and hearths. The walls are smoothly plastered with white clay, often adorned with elaborate murals depicting geometric patterns, hunting scenes, or stylized human and animal figures. Sculpted bucrania, cattle skulls with horns, are embedded in the walls, along with plaster reliefs of women with exaggerated breasts, hinting at a rich symbolic and spiritual life. You can almost feel the smooth, cool plaster of the wall, the delicate ridges of a mural beneath your fingers. The home is well organized, with areas for sleeping, cooking, and storage. Baskets woven from reeds and grass line the walls, holding grain, tools, and personal belongings. The light, filtering in from the roof opening, creates a warm, earthy glow. The air inside is warm, almost smoky, the embers of the hearth providing constant heat and light. You might see a family gathered around the hearth, sharing a simple meal of stewed grains, wild vegetables, and perhaps a small amount of roasted meat. Their conversations are soft, intimate, their lives woven together by shared space and common purpose. Life in Catalhoyuk was agrarian, but also deeply connected to their environment. They cultivated wheat, barley, and peas and domesticated sheep and goats. The fertile Konya plain where Catalhoyuk stood provided bountiful harvests. Imagine the collective effort of planting and harvesting, the rhythmic swing of flint sickles, the joy of a successful yield. The scent of freshly tilled earth, of ripening grain, would fill the air during the growing season. The close-knit nature of the settlement, with no intervening streets, suggests a deeply communal, perhaps egalitarian society. There's little evidence of obvious social hierarchy or monumental architecture dedicated to single rulers. Every home is similar in size and internal decoration, suggesting a shared prosperity and a strong collective identity. The sounds of neighborly visits, the shared work on rooftops, the communal rituals, all speak of a society bound by proximity and mutual support. But as you navigate the interconnected rooftops, a subtle unease begins to creep in. The very density and intimacy of Catalhoyuk, while a source of strength, also posed profound challenges. Without streets, waste management would have been difficult. Imagine the accumulation of refuse in common areas, the flies, the pervasive, unpleasant smell of decaying organic matter and human waste. The air, though sometimes sweet with cooking, also carried a constant, underlying stench. Disease would have been an ever-present threat in such a crowded, enclosed environment. Respiratory illnesses from constant smoke inhalation, infections from poor sanitation, and diseases spread by pests would have taken a heavy toll. You hear the persistent coughs, the moans of the sick, the quiet grief of families losing loved ones. The air, thick with human activity, also held the invisible threat of illness. Over centuries, the practice of burying the dead beneath the floors of the homes, while perhaps spiritual, contributed to the unsanitary conditions. Imagine stepping on floors knowing that ancestors lay directly beneath, a constant, tangible connection to the past, but also a source of potential contamination. This profound connection to ancestors also meant that homes were sometimes reoccupied by new families, creating a complex, layered history of habitation within each structure. As the settlement grew larger and more complex, the demands on local resources would have increased. The timber needed for roofs and ladders, the clay for plastering, the flint for tools, all would have required more extensive foraging. The fertile lands might have begun to show signs of depletion from continuous cultivation. You notice the distant trees becoming scarcer, the fields appearing less bountiful. The scent of wood smoke, once comforting, might now carry a hint of desperation, of a dwindling fuel supply. Internal tensions, too, might have arisen in such a tightly packed community. While seemingly egalitarian, the sheer lack of personal space, the constant proximity, would have inevitably led to friction. You can almost hear the hushed arguments, the subtle conflicts that simmered beneath the surface of communal harmony. The absence of easily accessible external spaces for waste disposal or even private reflection would have strained the social fabric over generations. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, Catalhoyuk began to decline. The need for timber would necessitate longer, more dangerous journeys. The burden of constant maintenance on the tightly packed, interconnected homes would grow. The health challenges posed by the dense, unsanitary living conditions might have become insurmountable. The innovative yet ultimately restrictive architectural style, once a strength, became a burden. One by one, families might have chosen to leave, seeking simpler, healthier lives in smaller, more open settlements. They would have packed their few precious belongings, climbed the last ladder, and stepped off the rooftop for the final time, looking back at the vast, undulating expanse of roofs that had been their world. You witnessed their quiet departures, their faces etched with a mixture of hope for the future and sadness for the home they left behind. The fires in the hearths grow cold. The rhythmic thud of grain grinding ceases. The laughter of children, the murmurs of conversation, fade into silence. The sounds of human life on the rooftops are replaced by the persistent chirping of crickets, the rustle of wind through the dry grasses, and the occasional call of a wild bird. The pervasive scent of wood smoke diminishes, replaced by the raw, earthy smell of abandoned mud and clay. The intricate murals on the walls begin to fade, peel, and crumble, their vibrant colors dulling into the monochrome of dust. The bucrania, once imbued with spiritual power, become mere bone. The timber ladders, no longer used, slowly rot and collapse, denying access to the once vibrant homes. The mud roofs, no longer tended, sag and crack, slowly dissolving back into the earth, blurring the distinctions between one home and the next. You feel the profound silence deepen, the absolute stillness that settles over this once thriving rooftop world. Catalhoyuk, once a beacon of early urban living, slowly, deliberately, returned to the embrace of the earth. Not in a sudden dramatic destruction, but in a slow, agonizing abandonment, forced by the very pressures of its unique design and the persistent challenges of close-quarters living. The layered mounds of mud brick remain, silent witnesses to a forgotten era, their intricate interiors now buried secrets. As you climb the last ladder and step away from the silent, empty rooftops, you look back at the receding mound. You realize that even the most innovative and communal of human settlements, when pushed to their ecological and social limits, can eventually be abandoned. Catalhoyuk vanished, its people dispersed, leaving behind a hauntingly beautiful testament to their existence. A stark reminder that even the earliest experiments in urban living carried inherent challenges, and that the desire for simpler, healthier lives can drive entire populations to seek new horizons. The whispers of a rooftop world linger in the Anatolian wind, a powerful testament to the transience of human endeavor and the constant quest for balance. Now feel the cool, dark embrace of the deep water pressing in around you. The air you breathe is artificial, a modern convenience, but the water itself holds the chill and the taste of the ancient sea. You are no longer on land but descending into the depths off the coast of Achaea, in ancient Greece, around 373 BCE, searching for the legendary lost city of Helike. Feel the dense, cold water swirling around your modern dive gear, the silent pressure against your eardrums. Look around you. It's not the bright, vibrant world of a living city. It's a muted, ethereal realm, lit only by the beam of your artificial light. The sounds are muffled, distant. The only discernible noise is the gentle hiss of your own breathing, the faint creak of equipment, and the vast, silent roar of the ocean itself. The scent of salt and damp, cold stone permeates this watery world. Are here because Helike, a thriving Achaean city, a jewel of the Hellenic world, vanished in a single terrifying night. It wasn't abandoned, it wasn't gradually swallowed by sand or jungle. It was obliterated, submerged by a cataclysmic earthquake and tsunami, plunging its entire existence into the silent, eternal embrace of the sea, like a real-life Atlantis. You are witnessing the chilling aftermath millennia later. Imagine the city just before that night. Picture yourself walking through its bustling streets. The air would have been warm, filled with the salty tang of the Corinthian Gulf, mingled with the scent of olive oil, freshly baked bread, and the sweet aroma of grapes from nearby vineyards. The sounds would have been vibrant. The chatter of citizens in the agora, the clash of metal from a blacksmith's forge, the distant shouts of fishermen on the docks, the solemn chanting from temples. Marble temples gleamed in the setting sun, their columns stark white against the deep blue sky. The citizens of Helike were prosperous, members of the Achaean League, renowned for their intellectual and artistic achievements. You might have seen philosophers debating in the public squares, their voices echoing off the white marble. Athletes training for the Olympic Games, their muscular bodies glistening with sweat. Women weaving intricate patterns on looms, their fingers nimble and quick. Children playing with terracotta dolls, their laughter carried on the sea breeze. You could feel the smooth coolness of a marble column, the rough texture of a fishing net. Their prosperity was deeply connected to their location, a fertile plain on the coast, but also tragically vulnerable. Beneath them lay the treacherous Helike fault, a sleeping giant waiting to awaken. This was their beautiful, dangerous home. Then on that fateful night the earth began to rumble. Not a gentle tremor, but a violent, sustained shaking that sent panic through the city. Imagine the terror. The ground beneath your feet heaving violently, buildings groaning, then crumbling around you. The roar of the earthquake would have been deafening, accompanied by the screams of the terrified populace. The beautiful marble temples would have cracked, their columns toppling like dominoes. The elegant homes would have disintegrated into rubble. Feel the terror of the moment. The ground turns liquid, liquefaction turning solid earth into a churning morass. You are thrown to the ground, disoriented, the world spinning around you. The air would have been thick with dust, the acrid smell of pulverized stone, and the overwhelming stench of fear. The sounds of breaking timber, falling masonry, and human despair would have filled the night. And then the sea. Legend says the sea retreated dramatically, revealing the seabed, before rushing back in an unstoppable wall of water. Imagine the thunderous roar of the tsunami, a dark, looming wave rising hundreds of feet, racing towards the shattered city. The wave would have crashed down with unimaginable force, swallowing what little remained of Helike. Houses, temples, people, all swept away, dragged into the churning vortex. You feel the overwhelming force of the water, the cold, powerful current dragging everything under. There is no escape, no time to even gasp. The vibrant city, with all its sounds, smells, and colors, is plunged into the dark, silent depths of the sea, its destruction instantaneous and absolute. The laughter, the chatter, the smells of bread and wine, all are silenced, replaced by the crushing silence of the abyss. Now, in your modern dive gear, your powerful lights cut through the gloom. You see shapes emerging from the murky depths. Not intact buildings, but the ghostly outlines of foundations, scattered pieces of pottery, roof tiles, perhaps a collapsed wall here or there. These are the silent, petrified remains of Helike. The seabed around you is littered with fragments of human life, scattered across the ancient plain now submerged. You might spot a bronze coin, its ancient inscription barely legible, lying half buried in the silt. Or a broken piece of a ceramic pot, a common vessel that once held food or water. These aren't grand treasures. They are the humble, everyday artifacts of a vanished people, now forever resting in the cold embrace of the sea. The water, once a source of life and trade, became the instrument of its destruction and its final tomb. The once bustling agora is now a silent, featureless expanse of seabed, its marble statues long gone, either dissolved, scattered, or buried deeper beneath the silt. The grand temples are reduced to scattered blocks, their intricate carvings now smooth with algae, their spiritual significance lost to the crushing silence of the deep. The homes, where families once gathered, are now mere impressions in the ancient mud, ghost-like outlines in the eternal twilight. You feel the profound silence now, the absolute stillness that settles over the submerged city. Helike, once a vibrant, prosperous Greek city, was erased in a single catastrophic night, not by slow decline, but by the sudden, overwhelming power of nature. Its people, their lives, their every moment, were instantly extinguished, plunging an entire civilization into the dark, cold depths, leaving behind only scattered fragments and a terrifying legend. As you ascend from the silent, submerged ruins, you carry with you the chilling understanding that life, vibrant and bustling, can be extinguished in a single terrifying moment, leaving behind only the cold, wet echoes of its final breath. Helike didn't vanish without a trace in the sense of being entirely forgotten. Its story lived on as a cautionary tale. But its physical presence, its living, breathing existence, was instantly and irrevocably swallowed by the sea, perfectly preserved in its destruction, a stark reminder that even the most thriving cities are built on geological giants, and that nature's power is absolute and unforgiving. The echoes of a final agonizing gasp linger in the cold, dark water, a powerful testament to the transience of human existence and the brutal unpredictability of the earth.